Okay, we're live now. Hey, hello everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to the sixth episode of our second season on Twins and Twins Emerge. Today I have someone very special to me, and it's very special. A special time for us both because we're both born in April, and very soon it will be hitting 40, and this is so I wanted to get him here so that before he gets to 40 he can share from his experience with us all. So before we go right into it, we'll just start with a short time of prayer, and then we go into it. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you because you already knew this day would come, Lord. Thank you for the time that we're going to share together. Thank you because the people would be blessed and the young ones will learn from this and the old ones will even learn from this, oh God. Lord, we ask that you help us all through this and that every yoke of addiction, every oppression of the enemy be broken through this session for everyone that would listen both now and later. Thank you, Lord, because you always hear us. In Christ's name I've prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Man, so thank you so much. And so I like to call him Wilfem, and I would like him to just do a short intro of himself. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me on this revered platform. And like I always say, anybody that calls me Wilfem knows me from way back. If you meet me outside today and you say, "Hello, Engineer Femi Williams," and just know that okay, you just know me when things now look nice a little. But if you can call
Yeah.
me Wilfem, yeah, you have known me a long time. My name is Femi Williams. So my people like me to put the engineer in front, Engineer Femi
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah, we like it.
They said because I earned it, so I have to put it all the time, and
Yeah.
but it's not a big deal. I'm Engineer Femi Williams, the founder of Metropure Konsepts, which we call our small conglomerate these days. Um, so
Mm.
basically, I'm an engineer by profession. I'm a chemical engineer, a practicing chemical engineer, and I practice this on basically the environment, majorly the water treatment area of environment, wastewater treatment, water treatment, potable water, and all that. So that's the chemical engineering aspect of Metropure Concepts. Furthermore, to engineering aspects and environmental as well, we do recyclable waste in Metropure Concepts, um, where we recycle papers, plastics, and the likes, just for the benefit of the environment. And this is basically what I do currently.
Oh, thank you so much. Lots of things to unpack there. So many things packed into one. But so like you said, practicing engineers for on practicing
Yes,
engineers like us.
practicing.
So yeah, so good to have you, sir. Yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, I'll be having this session in the environment, so you might hear some audio, but I'm also practicing taking care of the environment. Yeah, so
Okay.
if we go right into it, how did you come about all of these things that you do today? We're going to go into core of the discussion, but just to latch on to where you started, how did you come about all of these things that you're doing today? I know you studied chemical engineering. We did lots of things, but if you can reflect a bit as you were growing up, how did you think about, oh, these are the things I want to do? And if maybe depending on what time in life that came about, how did you come into this?
Okay. So thank you very much. Basically, while growing up, we always say that life will generally happen to you as you are growing up. But while growing up, the aim and the goal was not for chemical engineering initially. We all wanted to become maybe a doctor, maybe a pilot. Mine was actually a pilot. I wanted to become a pilot. I must fly, and all that. So, sorry about that. So I wanted to become a pilot, and there are criteria to become a pilot, to becoming a pilot. So these we wrote the West African examination, WAEC. So the next one was the JAM, right? So it was JAM. Um, but at that point, when I wanted to fill my JAM form, Joint Admission Matriculation Board, yeah. So it dawned on me that there was no, because I stayed in Lagos at that time, and there was no um, aeronautic engineering course around the West. And my dad was so particular about, you cannot go that far. Oh. It was somewhere in Kaduna, in Zaria, precisely. And then, so we started editing, becoming a pilot downwards. And
I
then,
like the way you said it. We started editing. So it looks like
yes,
as we grow, we start editing the things that
a
our childish dreams away from our childhood
exactly. A
dreams.
lot of things will begin to as life begin to unfold. You should be flexible enough to move towards where life is going at that time. So we started editing downwards. I then said, okay, if I can't become a pilot, I will become a petroleum engineer, because this was the in thing in Nigeria at that time. It was um, the era of oil boom and all that. And then I wanted to become a petroleum engineer. And then we moved down to petrochemical. And then I got admission into River State University of Technology in Port Harcourt. And again, my dad said it was too far for him. Uh, and of course, we have to now look at where can I see petroleum engineering in Nigeria, around the West where I stay. The first option was Unilag, University of Lagos. I didn't want to stay in University of Lagos, so I wanted to move out of Lagos. Went to Ibadan. No, I think I didn't want Ibadan, and so that's how I found myself in chemical engineering in Femi Williams University. And also, there's a backstory to that. Actually, it's a long story. I don't know if it's what we can share on the time.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe we'll start getting into them as we touch those topics that
yeah,
relate to them. So
okay,
I
cool.
guess we'll get to touch them now. You talked about, I put it in this way, like editing your childish dreams from your away from your childhood dreams. So that helps you to separate the things that are just fantasies from what you will actually become or what God has planned for you. Now, I'll quickly ask you this before we go again, just to build on in that line of thought.
Okay.
If you look back, do you feel that you should still have studied aviation or being a pilot based on the way God has helped you today? Do you feel that, oh, maybe this was what I should have done?
No, at all. I'm sorry to quote, but there's a singer that I love that part of his song. He said, "Looking back now, there's no regret. Looking forward, that's all I've got." You see,
That's to face
and
DBA. Huh?
that's not Two Face, that's the
That's
band.
on the band. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking back, I know that there's a way God will orchestrate your journey, and that there's a way God will orchestrate your journey that you will know that this is God, right? So there's no regret at all that I didn't become a pilot or an aeronautic engineer, because somehow I have seen that in that path is where God wanted me to be. Now, I have always said this to people, and especially young people. Um, there are so many ways God can speak to you. There are so many ways God can give you direction. God can speak to you expressly to say, this is what you should do. And when you hear that voice, continue in that line. You don't need to edit it. But when you know within you that this is my choice. It's not because I heard God expressly saying I should go this direction. Then, if God, which I believe that God loves everyone, as God loves us, He will push you in a way to that direction that He wants you to go. You see? Exactly. You don't have to edit what
Yeah,
God
yeah,
told you
yeah.
expressly.
I
But
really like
as you
I
go,
really like that. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
okay, yeah. So, but as you go, if you know that okay, this was my choice, actually was my choice. It was a fantasy. Everybody was mentioning, what do you want to become and all that, and I said I want to become a pilot. I didn't hear God for it. But in the journey of life, God began to push me towards my right direction. As if you listen to the progression, he moved from pilot, aeronautic engineer to petroleum engineer to petrochemical engineer till I get to this chemical engineering part of it, which I stayed on. And I can't even believe that I would stay this long on it myself. And I can't even explain how enormous and the blessing of it has been. And it shows because that's God's direction for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like, I believe God is leading us to dwell on this part now. You mentioned something about God's voice.
Yes.
We're trying to focus our attention of the things that happened for you growing up between 10 and 15. I know you have a very interesting story, so same for me. I understudied computer engineering. I'm sure that I would have been obsolete by now if I studied computer engineering, but studying
Yes.
chemical engineering, I know God brought us together,
Mm-hmm.
so imagine that you were a pilot and I was a computer engineer. Maybe there would have just been a crash somewhere. Maybe I would have just have been obsolete, so, but
Yeah.
God has a plan for us. So, how did you, around what age did you start finding, with the guidance of your parents and the people around you, did you start finding, okay, this is what I really want to do?
Okay. So um it was it was easy for my parents to determine what I would really do because of um how do I call it now, the potentials and things I have displayed within the house. It was not difficult for them to know that this guy should be an engineer because I was so keen on anything that has to do with what I can work with my hand within the house. I began to, repair things. uh, I was just curious about everything within the house. If we had a breakdown, maybe on the DVD, on the radio, I'm looking into it. And if there's something I need to do, I want to work with my hand. So it wasn't difficult for them. And one of the things I would forever appreciate my parent for is the knowledge of Christ at an early age. So it was so obvious that um, they wanted us to know God for ourselves, even though they were ministers of God, they were pastors. But instead of having to enforce it on you, having to force it on you, and you don't know, you don't have a personal relationship with God yourself, they made it so simple that you have to see for yourself that this is God that I need in my journey. So
Mm.
between ages 10 and 15, really, at 10, I think I was in secondary school by 11.
Yeah, which is like
No,
our, which is
at that time,
element, okay, which is
yes.
getting
So
into high school,
um
middle school. That's middle
it
school.
was
Those are in the US.
okay, that's middle school now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I was in, and then it was obvious because okay, so I think this platform has a privilege of being the first to know that I will be publishing a book of my first 4 decades.
Whoa.
Um,
We will look
yes,
forward to having that. We look forward to having that. And thanks for
on
giving us the privilege.
no, this is the first platform I'm mentioning it, and it's going to be out on my birthday, 27th. We are going to publish it. It's already everything is set.
Oh, cool.
So it's one decade at a time. That's the title. It's a memoir of my personal story.
Mm.
So for the benefit of this platform, I think chapter 2 and 3
Okay.
would speak a lot. Yeah. So um, so I was saying that at 11 I was in secondary school, but let me just do a summary of what happened between 11 and 15 specifically, right? Middle school, right? Um, I came into secondary school, middle school, as the case may be, as a top student. As a top student, I was first in the whole of Ifakweja, a local government. I don't know, maybe it's a province, something like
Yeah,
that.
so maybe like a
Yeah.
parish, like an
So,
entire parish, something
and
like
I
that.
entered school like that. So, GSS one, class two. I don't know how they call it,
Yeah,
but
just go ahead. It's fine.
yeah. So I was first until I met some friends. Yeah. So I met some friends in GSS two, and it was a lot of distractions. It was a lot of distraction. And then the first thing I saw was a drop in my position from first to second. I felt, it's not bad. It's not bad. We were about 106, 110 in class in those years, right? So
Mm,
I was first of that class every time until I
mm,
met those friends, and then I started rolling with friends, and then I dropped to second position.
mm.
It wasn't a big deal. It's first, second. I can still do it. I
Yeah,
can
you still
still do
get an
it.
award like first, second, third. You still be on the podium.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So and then I dropped again to third, and then I'm like, it's not a big deal. Let's continue. Let's continue. It's not a big deal. Then I dropped to eighth, and then when I got to eighth position, I cried because I knew that at that point my distractions were now overshadowing my concentrations and focus. So at that point, and this is where I want to use that part of my life to talk to teenagers and people in their 20s now, that first of all, you have to set a focus for yourself. One of my focus then was never to drop between one and three, first position and third position. But when I got to eight, I moved from third to eight, not even four, not five, not six, not seven, because of the distraction that was on my way at that time. I had a lot of friends that we were rolling together, we're doing things together, big boy things. We're not just big boy, just forming big boy. We are the big boy of the school. You don't want to, you don't want to talk to everybody. Just do like this in one corner and be looking at everybody. It was a lot of distraction. Then we got into music, we disturbed, many things. So the first thing I would say at that point is set a focus for yourself. So for me, my focus then was to be among the top three, which I was getting until I got distracted. So if you set that focus for yourself, then you need to look at a way, or things around you that will probably distract you from that focus. And that's where you now need to begin to cut down those focus. And maybe when we get into it, I would be able to mention how I was able to come out of this kind of relationship, kind of friendship that I found myself at that time. But if you have a focus, if you set a focus first and then you move towards it, there is, the sky, as they say, is the starting point.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Like very, very profound things that you've said there. So, and thanks for being vulnerable and sharing from your own experience about setting focus for yourself. The interesting thing is that when I was in uh, GSS 3, which is that'll be grade 8 here, which is like the end of middle school, I also dropped from first to second in the second term, and I dropped to eighth in the third term. So
Oh
just
my.
and then I can relate to that. So thanks for sharing that. But I like the point you mentioned about finding your distractions and eliminating them. First, setting your focus, finding
Mhm,
those, understanding those distractions, and eliminating them. So now, if let's we'll go step by step on that now.
Yeah.
How did you now? You've talked about setting focus and understanding your distractions. I want to take a step
Mm-hmm.
backwards, then we'll come back to this line of thought. So, at what point did
Okay.
you, as growing up, at what point you talked about the fact that your parents introduced you to understanding God for yourself and knowing that, having a personal relationship for yourself, and then I want to relate that to hearing God's voice for yourself. At what point can someone, in, and based on your experience, from your own personal experience, at what point can someone start saying, "Oh, okay, I can hear God for myself," so that I can start. That will also help me to determine my focus. It doesn't mean that distractions will not come, but I
Mm-hmm.
need to first understand that portion.
Okay.
How did that work for you? Did you hear me?
Yeah. Can I continue?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Um. So my parents, like I said, were ministers of God, and it was a privilege. Not everybody would get that kind of privilege of having the kind of parents that I have, right? So let me speak from my own experience, then I can talk also the people I related with that didn't have that kind of privilege. Okay, so first in point is that my parents were deliberate. First of all, like I said, they didn't enforce anything on us. They made sure that we knew God, we knew Christ for ourselves. And how did they do that? They were deliberate. Um, so in the organization where I was, Foursquare Gospel Church, we had grades where you move from children church, which they call we have the candlelighters, the cadets, and as it moves up. So they made sure that okay, so they made sure that we didn't miss any step. And that meant a lot because at that cradle age, you learned things about the Bible, things about God that you just know, maybe for the sake of knowing, right? For the sake of knowing, maybe for memory verse, for competition, those kind of things that excites children. It wasn't a big deal at that time. But as we began to get closer to, for me, I actually gave my life to Christ when I was 11, and that was 1997. Yes. So, and I cannot forget, it was the first Sunday of March in 1997, and it was my dad preaching. Yeah. So, I tell people that I cannot forget. He didn't force me to come out, he didn't call my name. He was preaching to the entire congregation, and I saw myself in the message, and I came out and I knelt down in front of the altar and gave my life. Now, at that point, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a pinpoint of 11. Some get to know God before then, even. And like I said, from the background where I mentioned that there was a deliberate effort from childhood, from the small age, cadets, candlelighters, things like that. You're already knowing about Christ, even though your conscience, they led us to Christ, so to say, right? In those classes also. They said, put your hand on your chest and say after me. They are real, right? But it's not in our consciousness as children. But at that point, when I came out for myself, it dawned on me that at this point, if I don't change, I'm heading somewhere very bad. Right. So, and then I want to speak also on, okay, so you asked me about when can we say we are now listening, we can now hear God for ourselves. At that point, I don't think um so let me say this. I might not be correct. I leave this to the children counselor and all that. But at any point of a child where a child can dream and remember the dream, that's I can dream and I can narrate it to you back that daddy, I saw this, 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 this. then I'm not sure if this is correct globally, and this is a disclaimer, but I feel at that point, yeah, it's at that point you can say this person has a consciousness of something supernatural,
Yeah,
something that
I
can
agree.
be
Yeah.
communicated,
Hmm.
yeah,
To their
and then you
spirit.
can
Yeah,
understand it.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yes, it can be connected from the top to their spirit, and they can
Yes.
tell it back to you. You see, uh, yeah, this is me. So that's the point.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks
For
for
me,
yeah. Go ahead.
okay. So I wanted to say for me, it wasn't dreams anyway, because I, I don't. I used to tell people I don't dream, even till today. But now I think I dream actually. Anyway, but growing up, I don't dream because there's no way you ask me do morning devotions. My parents say, do you have any dream today? Yeah, say I didn't have dream. My sister has always had dream. I don't, sorry, I didn't get any dream. But I know that if I have something, an impression in my spirit, and I talk about it, if I had an impression in my spirit, even at that younger age, if I talk about it, they see it like it's a word of wisdom and it comes to pass. So they took it own gift. Um, so now, even if you don't have the opportunity of growing up like I did in a Christian home where there was deliberate effort of putting you in that line, then how do you build up your own self, knowing what you know now? It's very simple. It's very simple, and I would recommend just two steps. First, do you think you know God? If you feel you know God, then try to know yourself. Now, so what I've said two things together: know God, know yourself. That's first. Those are the two things I want to hammer on. Then how do you know God? I don't want to do that preaching here. Maybe you can do that for us, Pastor Femi. That you get close to God, this and that, ask God to forgive you your sins and all that, then know yourself. The know yourself part is such that you know when something is different from the natural. So that's why we call it supernatural. When what you are feeling, what you are hearing, what you are listening to, what's that impression in your heart, when it's different from what you would normally think, right? It boils down to the fact that God is already speaking to you, and then you have to be conscious of it.
Yeah. So thanks. Like very very deep there. I could also call you Pastor Engineer Femi, right?
I
But
don't want to sound deep,
yeah,
okay.
but if the way from what you've said, it's even beyond being spiritual or being a Christian or not being a Christian. It's about knowing God, knowing that there is someone that holds the universe, and then knowing
Exactly.
yourself. How do you relate with that being? So again, if we, like you said, if you don't know that something is different, you will not find out for yourself. You will not know um, how to go ahead with it. So thanks for sharing that. I really love that one. Know God and know yourself. And knowing yourself helps you to relate with God. And then you will know when God is speaking to you. And you know when the otherwise, when the devil is or the evil forces are speaking to you, because you open your channel up to, because everything is spiritual, whether you like it or not. So you can only choose now to say, I want to follow God's force, that kind of thing. So thanks a lot for sharing that. Now we're going to come back to the I think these ones are words on marble that we need to share broadly. Know God and know yourself. Now, I want to bring your attention back to something. You talked about setting a focus. That's what we started. Those were the steps that we're talking about. If I want to progress, if I want to move forward, and to avoid distractions. Now, let me paint a scenario for you. I know that you, while living in the southwest of Nigeria, you had changed cities, your parents had moved from one place to another, and now you moved to an urban area. I want to ask you, how do you set your focus when things are not perfect? So if I believe you understand what I'm saying. Now you're coming from a background that is not the best, a very humble one, and then you're coming to an urban area, and if you can talk more about it, I'll leave that to your discretion. But I just want to paint that scenario. So you're coming from that very bad hood, and now you're going to a city, and then
So
how do
again,
you remain relevant, still keeping your focus? I think you are one of the best people to talk to that.
okay. Again, I'll say I shared a bit of that in the book, one decade at a time.
We'll definitely get copies
One
of that book.
decade at a time. So
Yeah,
I
so
looked at my life.
before you go ahead, sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
So let me just make a commitment that we'll give out. We will, apart from our own personal copy, we'll give out another copy to our the highest listener of this show. So that's one commitment. So I think it's something that needs to get broad. So apart from our own copy, we'll give out another copy too. So we have already pre-ordered this way, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, well, we are not selling.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
don't worry about
so
that.
let me continue. So that's like the second chapter, and I'm going to quickly talk about it. So I moved from Ado-Ekiti to Lagos at the age of 10, exactly 10. So the first thing that happened
do you want to give us a perspective of Ado-Ekiti and Lagos? So for our global listeners. So when you say Ado-Ekiti,
so
you might be thinking it's like
Ado-Ekiti at that time was under Ondo State. Okay, well, let me quickly give you a perspective of what it looks like. Is a rural area, so to say. I mean, just point blank. Is an area where we all know ourselves. Like, it's a community. You know the next person, you know the next neighbor. It's not where it's not a metropolitan city, it's just a town. So what we call a city and a town is different. So it's a rural area, not urban. So I moved from there to urban area in Lagos State. And the first shift for me, and maybe I can call it also my motivation, was the I don't know if I should call it a shame or jest that the children then were making because of my accent. I had this very local accent. You can imagine it coming from that place.
I believe everyone needs to read that book because it's going to be loaded. I'm so sure.
I'm waiting to hear you.
No, I'm saying that everyone needs to read the book because I'm so sure it's going to be loaded. Just go ahead.
It's interesting, I must confess. I poured my heart there, everything, and including the one that the strength for the journey part.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so it was at that point I had to set a focus. It was my motivation because the children then did not like me. They repeated my words as if I wasn't speaking their language. When you say something and then they repeat it and they all laugh, and you're like, I'm wondering, why are they laughing? Is it not? I just spoke something serious. Why are they laughing? But because of the accent and the intonation, it was a lot. So it motivated me again to say, okay, I give up. If you guys won't like me for me as this is, then I'm going to show you to like me. That's by topping my class, by topping the entire community at that area. This is me, a local boy, coming to you. And then this is what we call the common entrance. In those days, common entrance into the middle school. I don't know how you people write that exam over there. So I determined that I was going to show them, to to be a force to reckon with. And so that became my first focus. Like I mentioned the other time, that was where I coined my focus from. That. So you have, I was determined that, okay, if you guys are not going to like me for me, I'm going to make sure that at this point I will become a force to reckon with. And I did. It was obvious in all the exams I wrote. And just to mention, I was bearing another name then, Arumalashe, right? So this is how it happened in that exam, in that regional exam. So I was sitting, say I was in the middle, and then the two guys beside me, Arolo and Ario, that copied my work were second and third. I can't forget. So we were just those three, and it was obvious it was because they were copying me when I was doing my work, right? So I became first, Arolo became second, Ario became third. And I'm mentioning names because these are facts that you can
That we
verify.
can verify.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it was at that point I became a force to reckon with because um should I call it quest for love, quest for acceptance, quest for love, quest for acceptance gave me a focus to say, okay, guys, I don't care if you like me for my intonation or my accent or nothing. I'm going to make you like me by force. And at that point, I was the star of the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then,
So,
yes, that was my transition from Ado to Lagos. That was how it was, and we moved from
yeah. So,
there.
so, so thanks. Like you turned your disadvantage into a motivation, and then that gave you an advantage. So if I put it in
Exa-
that way. So thanks a
Exactly.
lot for sharing that. Now, now having overcome that initial setback of coming from a rural area to an urban area, to a metropolitan area. And this is speaking to anyone that is watching this, that is, maybe you change countries and your accent is being you're made jest of based on your accent, or people do not reckon with you based on your accent. It's something that you need to pay attention to from this story, that you can also turn that into a motivation. You continue to work on it, but you turn that to a motivation to make sure that you are at your best. Yeah. So you use that to set a focus, but you mentioned as well that some distractions came in. So
Yes.
we can go along that line now. How did you, we've talked about the distractions, but how did you overcome the distraction?
So the last thing I heard is how did I
Overcome the
do?
distraction.
Okay, yes. Okay, so these distractions came in, where I started from. Um, I met a couple of friends, and this time I'm not going to be mentioning names because it was tough, right? So I met a couple of friends, and it was not. I mean, it was there was no danger. It doesn't look like danger at first. I mean, every kind of distraction for people at that age, 11 to 20, 21 even, their distractions usually do not look like danger to them. My distraction was not a danger to me because, as a matter of fact, as one of my friends then, and I'll be careful not to mention name, was second. If I take first, it will come in second. So it was innocent, distractions, looking beautiful. We were not supposed to do anything bad. We're not doing anything bad, and it doesn't look like a danger. We just want to move in. And then, like I said, what do we do? We're just big boys of the school breaking rules. We just want to break rules. If we're supposed to use black belt, we will use brown belt. If you say wear white socks, we want to wear brown socks. That kind of a thing. It was a big boy thing. Then it was sandals. We wear sandals, and it was rubber sandals at that time. But we had to starve, save our money, to buy leather sandals. He looked innocent, want to be he just want to be the star boy, so to say, and that was it. So it was innocent at first, and then we moved on gradually. We started skipping classes. Instead of being in class, we will be somewhere just gisting or making music with table and whatever we have in our hands and all that. We started skipping classes. I started skipping classes too because I have to be among my guys, that kind of a thing. And the performance started dropping. So how did I move out?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember where I said this was my focus. At the point where I came eighth, I had eighth position. Like I said, I cried, and I knew that I need to come out. If I don't, something else is going to happen now. So I needed to come out, and it was simple. Within that same clique, and I'm going to be very sincere with this. Within that same clique, I picked somebody a like mind, somebody that I think we reason the same thing, because the other guys were now going wild. I mean, when you say wide, I don't think it's something I want to put here, right? It was a lot of wild. So I picked somebody that, very close to my own thinking, among the same clique, and I called him out. Guy, do you want us to continue this way? Me, I don't like it. I don't want to continue this way. But if you want to join me, let's come out of them and let's be one together, our own, me and you only. And that speaks to the fact that you must always have either within, the problem that I think this generation have is that they don't want to talk to people higher. And I'm being honest. It's good to talk to people that are higher than you, but also reasonably you have somebody within your age range that you think that this person is doing well. You know that this one is doing well. And then you need to get close to that one and say, how are you doing it? Please show me the way. And then that can even trigger your focus. It can rearrange your focus. So I called, and this person, you all know him. You also know him. He's Benga. Yeah. So I called Benga out. Guy, I cannot continue like this. We have to come together and focus and set our own focus. These guys, we cannot continue with them. And so that's how myself and Benga became friends till date. Over 30 years now. Yes.
Interesting
So
to know that. And
that's
thanks.
how I came out. It was easy because I couldn't talk to my parents really about the things I was going through, about the things. Though, when I brought the result of third, remember, second, third, and eighth, when I brought it, they will ask questions. What's going on? The usual is what they gave me. It's not true. Those kind of, just to brush it off so that they can still trust you and give you a thumbs up. But that was not it. I knew it myself. I wish I had somebody else, like a senior person I could talk to
Yeah.
openly at that time.
Yeah.
I would have.
So just to latch onto
Actually,
that.
is going wrong.
Yeah. Just to latch onto that a bit. When you talked about not talking to your parents, if you look back, would you have spoken to your parents? Or if you had someone like a bit older, like you said, would you have spoken to that person? Just to help someone today that is feeling, can I talk to my parents? Or can I get a mentor, someone that is just that has gone through that situation? So can you speak to that, sir? Okay, I'm not sure that the audio is working, but just to say that you can speak to your parents. You know, especially when you have godly parents, speak to your parents, speak to find a godly mentor. You usually find that around a church. So if you have a youth program, and if you don't have a church, you can find a home church or a group that helps you to achieve that. So that's something to note, that you can find mentors to speak to that can help you navigate situations. So, like our speaker said, sometimes you don't want to talk to older people because you feel, oh, they don't understand. But I bet you they do understand. So it's important to speak to mentors to help you navigate through this. While we wait for our speaker to join in, I'll just say that many things we've learned so far, and I'll start recapping them. So the first thing we talked is set a focus. So this helped him to go from a rural area. Are you there now? Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just saying that, just for you to speak to the
Yes, I can
point.
hear you.
Yeah. Can you speak to the point about, for example, if you look back, would you have preferred that you were able to talk to your parents and talk to someone that is older than you, that has gone through that, so that it can help someone today that is feeling, oh, should I talk to my parents? I'm going through this, or should I just handle it myself?
Okay, so there's danger in handling it yourself, and because okay, so I don't want to I don't want to go into details of that, but it's preferred to talk to your parents. And if some of us, from African homes, we have judgmental parents. We have to admit that, and then they don't want to know what you are going through, because if they know the truth, the real truth about us, they probably would judge us wrongly, and then it will be catastrophic, right? So why not find a counselor? Why not get someone that understands you? Why not find somebody you can talk to? A youth pastor,
I'll just
a
add like
teenager's
a
pastor,
godly,
a
yeah, a
teenager's
godly
counselor.
person. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, and it has to be, yes. So that's why I said it's a pastor, right? So it has to be, yeah, because we have a lot of influences these days, right? But okay, so like I said, if you feel your parents are the kind of parents that will be judgmental, that would not listen, but they will cut you off and judge you immediately and all that. And this also goes to parents. Well, I think our generation were improving on that parenthood, on parenting and all that. However, if you feel that you are in that, your parents are still the kind of judgmental and all that, find a God-fearing um, counselor that you can talk to. And it's best. Like I said, I wish I had somebody I could talk to, especially about my grades. At that point, I haven't done I haven't done anything so bad, not to talk about with my parents. But because they already held me in high esteem, that this is a brilliant boy, he shouldn't be, having this kind of result.
Yeah. So you didn't
So
want
if
to
I open
disappoint
up to
them.
them about my distractions and why exactly and why my grades are like that, they'll be disappointed. I didn't want that. So I wished I had somebody I could talk to say, sir, this is me. And I actually did. Eventually, when I got our teenagers counselor, then I also mentioned him in the book. He's now I mean, he's a teacher and a counselor. So at that point, we were vulnerable with him. We could talk to him and all that. So that was eventually along the line when I had retraced my steps. Anyway, so it's better to talk to somebody older to be able to guide.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for sharing that. So you set a focus, and now you started finding distractions but you were able to understand the distractions, and you found someone within your age group, a peer that you could walk through it together, and you found someone that was above you, ahead of you, that could also pull you along. So that's the power of a mentor, and that's the power of you positive peer pressure, working together as a group so you can wade the waters. And then you got out of a group of relationships that you were in, and that helped you to narrow the focus. And then how did that translate your results? How did that translate your results?
So it wasn't instant, I must
Yeah,
confess.
sure,
It
sure.
was, so it was, but it was a lot of improvement. It wasn't instant. It wasn't at a snap of finger. But I moved up. Then I jokingly say that, after, like in my school, after GSS 3, when you enter into SS 1, there's nothing like first position, second position again. We just go with results. So I was a bit relieved, you know. So I jokingly tell people,
Escape.
that point I just tell people, yes, I know they see position again, I beg, that kind of, yeah. So, but I knew from my results that it wasn't instant. It wasn't instant, but it was gradually, and we moved up. I moved up. I must confess. I don't want to sound like I
Like it
suddenly
was
became
immediate.
the head boy.
No.
No, no, I
No,
didn't.
it doesn't. So just to learn from that a bit, that if you've gone through the wrong path, it's not instant to get on the right to the right result. You might get back on the right track, but it might take you time to get to that level you're supposed to be. So it's
Yes,
better that you do it right, so you are not distracted in the first place, using the guidance, the mentors that God has placed around you, your parents, and the godly people that God has placed around you. So that's something that we need to learn. I think there's a lot. I think we need to do a review of the book, if you have some time in a nearest
yes,
future. So I think
yes.
we'll be
Okay,
glad to
fine.
have you do a review of the book, and we just go through it session by session, and if you
Yeah,
have some time on that. Now we have a few
yeah.
minutes to go, but I would
Okay,
want to ask if we can do another session. I think we need another session. Maybe I'll come to you on how to do that. So, but
okay,
now
okay.
I'll just let you spend 1 minute to talk to that teenager that is going through a challenge right now, that is feeling like, oh, I'm in this area, my parents have brought me to this area, nothing, it doesn't look like where I want to be, but I don't even know what I want to become. So I need you to speak to that teenager in 1 minute, such that just to encourage them.
Okay, okay. Quickly, just before we go into that, I know that the current distractions for this generation is basically the social media, their gadgets. They are they are following a lot of influencers that are influencing nonsense, and
Negative
you don't
influencers,
want to give your life up to somebody that comes on the gram or on the social media to show you what they are doing. And you and I know, even the first judge, your first judge, aside your parents, your counselor, your mentor, your first judge is your conscience.
yes.
You know that this is wrong, but you just want to explore because of what you're seeing around. Now, just to answer that question, back to that question, you have found yourself in that position now. You have found yourself in where you feel you don't want to be, but now you are there. How do you make the best of where you are? It's very simple. First thing to do is to bring out the best in you first. I mean, forget about the environment, first of all. One of the things that my dad taught me is confidence. So you should be able to. I mean, I'm not speaking for you now. I'm speaking for myself. My dad taught me to be able to speak out. wherever I found myself. So I began to bring out the best in myself, maybe within the, so let's even narrow it down to within your own room. Don't go outside your room yet. Just stay, face yourself, maybe in a mirror, and find the best in you within your own room. Then move into your living room where you have other family members, and then you speak. You are able to bring out the best in you. Talk about the best that you find in yourself to other people, your family members. And then that's when you can now take it to a larger community. The larger community is maybe your school, your church, somewhere around the park. Begin to show what you can do. So let me begin. Let me take it. Let me rewind it a little. First step. The first step is to be able to know what you can do for yourself. Know yourself. I mentioned that earlier. Know yourself. What can you do for it? It's not about the environment. Most of the times we are quick to blame our background, where we grew up, I had a lot of friends in Ado-Ekiti. Now I'm in Lagos. I will just stay indoors. I will not make friends anymore. Don't do that. Don't do that. Speak to someone. Speak to someone. For me, I always call my dad my first mentor. So it was easy for me to talk to him. He was talking to me. He was building my confidence and all that. 2, once you are able to find the best in you, you begin to show it to others. The fact that this generation prefer to stay on their gadgets and phone alone sometimes annoys me. And I'm sorry, I don't mean it in a bad way, because you realize that you are losing touch with every other person around you, your environment, your friends. You're only talking on phone. In fact, you are sitting beside each other and they are chatting. Just open your mouth and talk. Then finally talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, talk to a pastor, a youth pastor, a God-fearing person, an adult that can help you out. And hopefully, by God's grace, you'll come out of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Very, very deep conversation there. So thanks for bring out the best in yourself. I like that one. And
First of all,
first of all, speak to yourself in your own room, even before you go to your living room. So thanks so much for sharing that. And so as you watch this, just you drop emojis for our speaker and just appreciate him. So we really appreciate you, sir. So and I look we'll reach out to you again, and I think we need to do another session because we've only touched 2 points of the many points. So I think we need to do another. If you have some time, I would want us to have something. But thank you for having us, and thank you for spending your time with us today. I'm sure that there will be a part 2 of this. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The book will be out 27th.
We're looking